What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. I'm Lieutenant Nathaniel Flint of the Landship Scorpius, and today I want to do a really quick book because I'm pretty sure I haven't heard anyone talk about this yet. I have a theory from Journey to the Center of the Earth. So I just read this book. It is a classic. It's Jules Verne. Just finished it up. It's a little interesting, fantastical. I would love to do another video on like the weird science of old science fiction. It is quite interesting. However, that's not what I'm talking about today. This is a really quick video. I'm pretty sure the main character of this book died. So before I get into that real quick, let's just do spoilers for Journey to the Center of the Earth, the book version. I'll start off with spoiling it. As it is written, and I think as it is intended, the main character does not die. He makes it home. They did their journey. It's great, just like all these fantastic journey things are. And he makes it home to his beloved and betrothed. So this is not a canon interpretation. However, I think it is extremely compelling in hindsight, and I can't believe this isn't a thing in all the adaptations and all of the things talking about this book. I haven't seen anyone actually discuss this. So first off, I want to kind of set the scene of where I think he dies and then get into all the fantastical stuff. So if you don't know about Journey to the Center of the Earth and you don't know anything that is about to be discussed, it is about the main character, Axel, the deceased, and his uncle, who are geologists. And they discover, kind of like Atlantis, the Lost Empire, they discover an old book one day. It's made by this old Icelandic, professor who's famous. They spend a lot of time trying to decipher his old journal. In the journal, they find a coded thing that comes out. Axel ends up cracking it, talking about this old Icelander's journey to the center of the earth and how to find the clues to journey there. They are ecstatic, and the uncle goes insane and wants to go. So they get an expedition and go. When they make it to Iceland, they bring on their last member of the party, who has different things. I think it's Hans, but he has different ways that they talk about him. He's a local Icelander they bring on board, and then they all go to find this path into the journey to the center of the earth. They eventually go through a bunch of tunnels, deep in caves, have a bunch of issues, and eventually find basically the beginning of the hollow earth theory. They eventually find a hollow earth, fantastical world with jungles and dinosaurs and things of that nature. They continue on, eventually finding the center of the earth, and then they get out through a volcanic eruption, and are like, we did it! Long and short, that's basically the synopsis. Now, for those of you who have read, it's pretty mundane, just like a lot of these older books. They start off extremely mundane and very of their time, old-timey. It is a lot of detailed descriptions. It's a lot of them being like, let's do this fantastic thing. And a bunch of people in a drawing room going, you can't do this fantastic thing because of science. And someone else going, well, logic tells us this science, and wouldn't that make sense? And then the other person's going, you're impeccably right, sir. That must be the case. And it's a bunch of that. This book is no different. Axel understands what we would consider actual science, and stuff that has been proven since this book came out. But all of his points are met with this very boomer logic. he kind of is like, well, wouldn't you think this thing and this person believes this, so wouldn't it be logical that you can just breathe under the earth for no reason? And then he's like, well, I can't argue with that logic, so therefore it must be true. And it's ridiculous. It is truly ridiculous that of its time. The first half is very mundane. It's their journey to Iceland. While they're in Iceland, a very cool old-timey look at what Iceland, I guess, was during this time, which this is like late 1800s. They're really discussing, then they find, like, they climb a mountain, they find the crater they're supposed to find. They go there, they can't find the entrance by the way that the Mystic Tome is, although I don't think that they were trying hard enough. They really were not video game designers. It was very simple where this entrance was. They should have just been looking a little harder. Eventually, they have to go down the shaft of an old volcano, which is done very meticulously with old rock climbing techniques. Very cool. They get to the bottom, and there's a cave at the bottom. They go into the cave, and they're traveling down, down, down through the cave. At this point, everything is very mundane. The journey through the cave is terrifying, but still very mundane. It's dark. They can still breathe for some reason. They have electric lights, so they don't have to worry about igniting explosive gas, which is something that you would actually need to worry about on a journey to the center of the earth. Like, there's a lot of things that don't scream out at you. So, it's all pretty mundane. However, there's a part that is about halfway through the book, give or take, where it all changes tone and direction. And I think this is where Axel dies. And I've done a bunch of Googling. I did not see anyone talking about this. There's no way that I'm the first, but I just didn't see anyone talking about this. So this is my book theory about journeying to the center of the earth. So around the chapter The Rescue in the Whispering Galley, Axel, they're walking deeper and deeper. They're seeing all of these fossils in the walls of the cave, sometimes on the floor. They're talking about them. They've solved their water problem, which they have. All pretty mundane issues in an adventure, like spelunking story. Very cool. At some point, Axel just gets separated from the group. Not sure how. Even he's like, I don't know how. It's pitch dark down here. How on earth did I get separated? He gets separated. He calls out. He kind of waits. Then he goes, oh, I was just so excited about the fossils and all these discoveries we were making that I have gone on ahead. So I got to walk back. So he walks back for several hours trying to find his uncle and the guide. Doesn't find them, and he goes, wow, they must have known that we separated, and then they must have thought the same thing I did and kept going back. I have to catch up with them. So he travels for the equivalent of, I think it's several days. It is insane. And eventually he finds that he's lost, long story short, spoiler free, I guess, he's lost the stream of water that was life-saving to them. He's now on very limited rations that he has himself, as well as whatever water he has. He's in trouble. So he's starting to panic. And he learns that he must have gone down a different tunnel or something that they didn't see on their way back. And he's now panicking. At some point, he is running and smashes into a wall, breaks the electric lantern he has. He's in pitch darkness. He's in full panic, screaming, trying to find help, running through the dark, just in an upwards direction, and he just keeps having issues. Eventually we reach the chapter, The Rescue in the Whispering Galley. he eventually hears talk from his uncle, voices. He's not sure if they're in his head or if it's somewhere else, but he finds a spot in the wall where he can almost very clearly hear them. So he calls out to them in this spot in the wall. His uncle responds back. In the story, he's found kind of like an acoustic area where for some miracle, this spot in the wall is connected to somewhere in the tunnel. The uncle explains that they assumed he just went on without them, and they have kept on the journey. He has traveled back several days, and they're like, we've been looking for you. Long story short, he's talked out of his despair, and he's like, you need to be going the other way. Do your best to keep going down. Eventually you'll find the stream. Keep going down. Find us. We can't be that far ahead. He uses really questionable math and science to say we can't be that far away because you can still hear us, and the atmosphere has is really thick. So we can't be that far away. Keep going. So he goes into the darkness, and then he ends up falling in an area. He's kind of sliding. Again, total darkness. His body leaves the earth as he tumbles into an abyss, but we don't get the description of that because shortly after he realizes he's screwed and he's just falling into the abyss, he strikes his head against a sharp corner of rock and he becomes unconscious and he loses everything. The next chapter, Thalata, he comes to in total darkness, but he's being tended to by his uncle. They have found them. The story kind of goes that they were at the very, very bottom of this very large area. They were in a chamber where a lot of tunnels converged. He must have been in one of those tunnels. Shortly after their discussion, they were setting up camp to wait for him here because they assumed all these tunnels converged. So wherever he ended up, he would eventually find his way here. And then there was a rock fall of which his body falls from the abyss and just kind of splats on the rock and kind of slides into this chamber where they were. They were like, oh my God, he's dead. They run to him. They patch him up. And they've been looking after him for, I think it's several days that they were looking for him. Eventually he comes to, which is where the book picks up, and he's like, rest, you're severely injured, you've got a head injury, there's this issue, you need to rest. When you're better, we'll tell you about all the cool shit we found. And he's like, what do you mean? He's like, we're gonna set sail soon. He's like, what do you mean set sail? So he rests. Eventually, it comes out that they are in a very deep chamber. They found an underground ocean, but also there's sunlight now. And he's super confused, and he's introduced to the next part of the journey, which is a massive underground ocean in this massive chamber. And they kind of have this weird science where they're under so many atmospheres of pressure now that the air is kind of illuminating itself. So this chamber kind of has sunlight, but also because of the massive underground ocean, freshwater ocean, and all of this stuff, the chamber roof is so tall, but it's hazy, so it kind of has a blue glow, so it looks like sky. It's this fantastical things. This point in the story is where there's a massive shift. There's now this light, there's now this ocean, this freshwater ocean. They look around, they end up finding forests, so there's a massive mushroom forest, that giant tall mushrooms with thick stalks like tree trunks. They eventually find other forests, a forest made up of every type of tree in the world, all in the same place, all intermingled. They find a forest of ancient trees and ancient ferns and star leaf plants and things. They find a lot of stuff like that. This is where I guess the dinosaurs are, but we don't really see dinosaurs. What they end up seeing is a Montosaurus, I believe. It's like this giant underwater crocodile shark thing that he describes. He actually says what it is, and it's fighting they find a Mosasaurus battling a Plesiosaurus while they are out on a raft trying to get across the ocean. They enter like an electric storm, but they also find like a horse, rhinoceros, camel, hippopotamus creature. They talk a lot about the Ice Age, like shelled giant armadillo creatures, which he talks about as being giant furry tortoises, which isn't true. And he also talks about like they find mastodons and stuff. They find other things. A lot of it's Ice Age stuff, not really dinosaurs and things. And then of course they find the remains of cavemen that have been pseudo-petrified. So they're like, this is an amazing discovery. And shortly after, find a Caucasian giant who is herding the mastodons as if they were cows. And they're like, oh, we gotta go. We gotta go now. So without spoiling absolutely everything, there is a very clear shift in semi-predictability, like I can see it as a form of science. It's bad science, but it's like science at the time. And then there is a noticeable shift into the fantastical. Believe it or not, this could like at every point these two people are trying to logic their way out of what they're seeing. So there is some logic, there's debate, I guess, if he actually thought this was plausible or if this was his taking a step into the fantastical. But there's a very clear shift. And I believe Axel died at the bottom of a pit. I believe he fell, he hit his head, and fell into an abyss close to the center of the earth, deep, deep, deep in the crust of the earth. I think at this point they're below the crust. I think they've traveled into the bedrock at this point. And in his dying at the bottom of this thing, broken body, he is having these like death hallucinations. And that is why it takes this massive tonal shift. It's everything he talks about missing about the surface world. There's sunlight, even though he talks about it's not sunlight and doesn't feel the same. There's plants. He's now excited about the adventure. He finds his uncle and the guide again. They take care of him. A lot of their fears and needs are met in this time. They go on a sea trip, but he ends up not really liking it, so there's reasons why that sea trip is reversed. He ends up being right with his uncle. We should never have sailed the sea. Look, this is the future path. And they do a bunch of fantastical stuff. And spoiler alert again, it is heavily implied that their mission fails, which I feel like is a first, or not a normal trope for this kind of genre. They don't actually reach the center of the earth. They do bad archaeology, use dynamite to try to get further with their goal, ends up screwing up a bunch of things, heavily implies that they are draining the ocean into the center of the earth, and they are swept away on the turret, spend several days on whitewater rapid conditions, eventually feel a lot of heat and are expelled in a volcanic eruption and wind up in Italy. Eventually they get to go home and the uncle is kind of upset, but they did this fantastical journey. They have revolutionized geology and the understanding of our history, and they know the way. So they get super famous and they're set for life and their legacy is secure. But he doesn't care. He gets to go home and be home. That is what he wanted. I just don't believe it. It is such a tonal shift. in his attitude, as well as the stuff. They keep finding all these, again, this giant leap into the fantastical. And I'm not dumb. I don't think the point of Jules Verne's stories are, here's this way our understanding is getting closer and further away, and here's this fantastic journey that changes the way we look at our world and look at each other, and that's the point, is take this amazing journey with me. And I believe that that's his intended thing with this story. However, there's no way Axel isn't dead. Like, it is very clearly he's doomed. He's running or ran out of water. He is delirious. Whether or not he used the echo chamber to talk to his uncle is, I think, the last of the debatable things that we could say is semi-realistic. His running into the dark, slipping on that thing, and falling into a crevice of the abyss, I believe he has died. And as he lays dying at the bottom of this pit, he is having these hallucinations. I think that an interpretation of this story that is semi-realistic, even kind of changing it to more align with what spelunking really is as a horror movie, and then having him basically die, and the rest of it be a hallucination of a dying man in the dark alone in a place where his body will never be discovered. I feel like this would be an amazing horror movie. I truly believe that. I think it's so compelling, and no one was talking about this. So I made a video about it. In the end, I'm not stupid. I understand what this is. I'm also not stupid. I find it hard to believe I'm not the first person to do this. I Googled for like 20 minutes and found no one discussing this. I was trying to avoid some spoilers for myself. I found one post where someone was asking, does he make it out? Like, does he die at the end, or do they make it out? And someone's answer was, they make it out. Like, read the book. Like, finish it. It's not that long. They make it out. There's no way I'm the first, but I just cannot believe that he doesn't die at the end of this book. So that's it. That's the whole video, is my book theory that Axel falls into an abyss, dies, and dreams up the rest, immediate fantastical parts of this book, and everything we know about Journey to the Center of the Earth is basically made up in his head. Actually, a lot of things that we know about Journey to the Center of the Earth is absolutely made up and in his head, because we know from films and like pop culture, there's supposed to be dinosaurs, there's this travel. It absolutely does not happen. It's mostly like Ice Age creatures, and then I guess you could argue that the dinosaurs in the water. It is a book of its time, super cool. I would love, let me know in the comments down below if you read this book and you like it, what you feel about the theory. But let me know if you'd be interested in a video on these old wacky sciences of early science fiction. It is insane. I have a favorite of From the Earth to the Moon by H.G. Wells that I would love to discuss one day. I think it would be really cool to, like, especially if I read one or two more of these. I've been rereading a lot of them recently, so I reread 20,000 Leagues because I read it as a child. I had never read this one, and I several years ago read all of H.G. Wells out of the thing I had. So there's a bunch of collections of wacky science thought that is like pseudo makes sense. So that's my thought, putting it out there, letting it end. That's all I have. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you like this video, let me know. If you want to see other videos like this, let me know. If you want a video on the weird pseudoscience that kind of makes sense for the time of old science fiction, let me know. I would love to do a video on that. Great steampunk book, solid adventure into the abyss. And I think there is a lot here. I think that the next adaptation should take a step away from pulp adventure and either do an actual like interpretation of this craziness and all, or lean into like a horror theme and like a horror version of this. Such a good concept. I really think you could do a lot with interpreting this as a horror. So let me know what you guys think. Well, thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next video. Like and subscribe for more steampunk content, and let me know what you think down in the comments below. Bye-bye!